Ever since we were young and left alone in our rooms at night, the darkness has held a deep sense of foreboding for us all. As we grow up, that fear lessens, but in the quiet of night, when the world should be sleeping, even as adults, there's something in the back of our minds which tells us to be wary of what's hiding in that dark.
Indeed.
Here are 10 reasons to be scared of the dark.
Oh, I don't need 10 reasons. I have plenty.
Number 10 is spindly legs.
Huh?
There are a number of human fears which seem to be built into us. Of course, fear of the dark is one of them, but another is fear of creeping insects, arachnids, and millipedes with their thousands of legs. But when both of these fears are combined, they can keep you up at night. One reason for this is that insects do not fear us during the day when we can swat them. So why would they fear us when we lie asleep at night, motionless? The truth is that they're quite happy to crawl into our beds and then all over our sleeping bodies.
Yes.
Worse still, they can crawl up onto our faces and into our mouths. There are even recorded...
Fuck, I gotta stop this. Jesus. I hate bugs. That was creepy as shit. Fuck. Ugh. God damn it.
Instances of cockroaches getting stuck in a sleeping person's throat, and even spiders crawling into the ear canal of an unsuspecting victim and laying eggs.
Yeah, I don't believe that one. The spider one. I don't believe that one. The cockroach, yes. There have been documented parts of that happening. My mom, who worked in the hospital, also has a story or two about that. So yeah, I believe that shit. I don't believe the spider one. Spiders are more skittish when it comes to humans. Even when we are sleeping, they just get away from us.
Number 9 are shadow people.
Oh, I have one of those.
When we're children, most of our fears surrounding nighttime are unfounded, especially when our parents are sleeping safely in a nearby room. However, this is not so for those who see shadow people in the darkness. Books have been written about this strange phenomena. Thousands of people from around the world have experienced the same terrifying thing. They see walking humanoid shapes at night. They're like three-dimensional shadows, partially transparent, with no facial features. For the victims of these nightly visitations, the impression is given that the shadow people are observing them for some unknown reason. And when parents come running to answer their child's screams, the menacing shadow disappears through floors, walls, or even rises up ominously through the ceiling above.
I never had that one, but I did see shadows when I was a kid. I actually saw, what was it? I think it was the Gremlins or something of the sort. It was something similar to Gremlins, that's how I described them. And they were always watching me every time that I was in bed. Like, I would be lying in bed in the dark, and at the edge of my bed, I would always see them. Sometimes through the corner of my eye, sometimes right in the middle, you know, when I was just staring at the edge of the bed, and I could see them just creeping there, just popping out and just looking at me for an undetermined amount of time. I actually tried to face those fears when I was a kid. I actually thought to myself, no, face this. And I reached out my hand, and as I reached out, one of them also reached out to me, and it was just creepy. I ended up doing the thing that kids do, they cover themselves with the blanket. That shit was creepy. It was creepy. Eventually it just faded. It just disappeared. I think it was after I faced them that it just started fading away, little by little, and I started getting less and less fear of the dark. But I don't know why I always saw those things. I don't know why. But it did happen when I was a kid.
Number 8 is nyctophobia.
Another thing that I also saw was the shadowy figures that you see in sleeping paralysis or whatever. You know, the humanoids, shadows that you see just watching over you or something of the sort. That also happened to me like once or twice. But those ones never creeped me out that much because it was like, meh, I see them for like a second or two, then I wake up and I'm good. And then I went back to sleep.
There are some people who have every reason to fear the oncoming night. These individuals suffer from a condition known as nyctophobia, but this goes way beyond casual unease as the sun sets. It's actually accompanied by outright terror and depression. In some people, as it gets dark, they begin to feel sick and lose the power to think rationally and even speak. What a person suffering from nyctophobia experiences differs on a case-by-case basis. However, one shared symptom is that their minds populate any dark space with a horrifying, dangerous presence. The fear this danger brings on is so paralyzing that some patients have to be heavily sedated whenever the sun dips in the sky. The most frightening thing about nyctophobia is that it starts off with a subtle fear of the dark, like most people have, before transforming into pure terror.
Now that image is nightmare fuel. Thanks for putting that in my mind.
Number 7 is the Forever Winter.
Great game, by the way.
Whenever we feel frightened by the dark, the one thing that we can hold on to is that it will pass and the sun will rise. But what if it didn't? One reason to be frightened of the dark is that one day it could rule the earth and never give way to light. There are 3 ways that this could actually happen. If a large asteroid or comet collided with the earth, then it would throw up so much debris into the sky that the sun would be blocked out for decades, if not centuries.
Yeah, it's called the nuclear winter kind of thing. It's similar to the nuclear winter from an atomic bomb. The idea is the same. The only difference is it's a meteor.
Another eternal darkness could come about if a supervolcano erupted on Earth, spewing out debris in a similar manner. And
that's too, like Krakatoa and stuff like that.
This sounds preposterous. This has actually happened before, and in fact, we're overdue for such an event. And lastly, if nuclear war occurred, the explosions could create so much dust and debris that the world would fall into a nuclear winter, trapped in darkness and cold, wiping out all life as we know it.
It has happened before, yeah. It's the massive extinction events that we've had throughout history.
Are unseen footsteps. If you follow paranormal investigation shows like Ghost Adventures, you'll notice a trend. Paranormal activity becomes far more prominent when the lights go out. Parapsychologists who research poltergeists, hauntings, and other ghost-related phenomena argue that darkness is key to manifesting such entities. The most common of these experiences, though, is the sound of footsteps walking across floorboards at night. When followed, no one can find any person there who's making the sound. One of the most frightening paranormal experiences a person can have is when, lying in the darkness, they hear the slow, creaking footsteps of a ghostly entity. Not moving aimlessly around the house, but walking towards the person lying in bed before a cold, icy hand touches them on the face.
Creepy. Stop that.
Number 5 are sleepwalkers.
Ooh, those are creepy.
Sleepwalking is a curious phenomenon which results in a person moving around in their sleep without realizing, usually when it's dark. In some instances, this can be amusing, but in others, it can be outright terrifying. For the sleepwalker, there's always the danger that they could fall down a flight of stairs or badly injure themselves or others. For those witnessing the sleepwalking, in some instances, the sleepwalker can actually grow violent. In its most extreme forms, police have actually encountered homicidal sleepwalking. Brian Thomas, for example, tried to wake his wife after he had a bad dream, but then realized he had acted out his nightmare with fatal consequences for his beloved partner. Most worrying, sleepwalking can strike at any age and can turn the peaceful silence of nighttime into a dangerous, threatening environment.
Hope it doesn't happen to me, Jesus.
Number 4 are hungry monsters. One of the theories behind our apprehension of the darkness is that it's a genetic memory passed down over the course of hundreds of thousands of years. In many chapters of human history, the night was genuinely terrifying because large predatory animals could attack and eat a person and their family. If not animals, then we would have been attacked by competing human groups, with some believing controversially that the Netherlands were actually nocturnal and may be the origin of our monster mythologies. But that's all in the past though, right? Not quite. First of all, many of us possess Neanderthal genes, which may explain predatory behavior. And
True.
second of all, in many places there are still terrifying creatures, such as bears, lions, snakes, and wolves, all capable of breaking into a house and feasting on those inside in the darkness.
You forgot Komodo dragons. Those guys are fucked up too. They can eat the whole goat without chewing.
Number 3 is sleep paralysis.
Ah yes, good old sleep paralysis.
Imagine waking up in the dark to realize that you cannot move. You are completely helpless. But then you hear something next to you, and it moves slowly towards you
Oof.
and then sits on your chest, trying to stop you from breathing. When you open your eyes, you see what it is, an old hag grinning at you. That's the experience of many who suffer from sleep paralysis. The opposite of sleepwalking, this occurs when we wake up and become conscious, but the mechanisms in our body which keeps us still while we dream are in effect. There are some believe that the old hag, as she's called, is a hallucination brought on by this waking dream state, but others posit a much more frightening explanation, that the old hag is real, a malevolent spirit entity which paralyzes people in their sleep and tries to squeeze the life out of them.
Random question: could one use the old hag to have a special kind of dream? Just saying. I mean, if sleep paralysis happens, could you technically lucid dream while in sleep paralysis and have a happy dream? Technically, would that be possible? Questions for later.
Number 2 are intruders. We've all heard the stories, people waking up to find that someone has broken into their home. If they're lucky, the intruder runs off. Hopefully they're just there to steal something and not cause anyone harm. But in some circumstances, however, they are there for more than just simple theft. We entertain ourselves with true crime documentaries about people like Ted Bundy, who committed vile crimes at night. And yet we persuade ourselves, not me, this could never happen to me. I'm sure Ted Bundy's victims thought the same, and so too would the countless others who slept safely in their beds, only to awake to a nightmarish intruder. So keep telling yourself that you're safe in bed, but please lock your doors and make sure the windows are shut, because you never know who's out there peering in.
It's fine, I have a knife.
And number 1 is the thing inside your closet.
Ah, the boogeyman.
When thinking back to being a kid, what's the one experience at night most can relate to? The monster in the closet. You'd stare at the closet door, imagining that something was about to open it from the inside and rush out to attack you. Or maybe the monster was under your bed, and you'd put off having to go to the bathroom for fear that a hand would reach out and grab your feet.
I don't think I ever had that fear, actually, now that I think about it. I heard about other people, but I don't think I ever had that fear. It was just the gremlin thing that I saw.
Certain that these nighttime fears were in our heads, that they weren't real. But some researchers believe that because children's brains haven't fully developed, that they haven't yet been conditioned by normal life yet, and that therefore they can see things that adults cannot. Perhaps then those fears of the monsters under your bed or the thing inside your closet at night wasn't so imaginary at all. In fact, perhaps whatever it was is still there, waiting to emerge.
I can kind of explain that one, actually. It has to do with the part of our brain, I forgot which one, but it has to do with the part of our brain that basically isn't fully developed, and prevents us from basically registering the way how the world works. Basically, it's when you have that thing that people say, your imagination playing tricks on you, or your fear playing tricks on you, because you get so scared you start seeing things. The tiniest noise sends your imagination running, you know? It's basically that. And since you are a kid, and you don't have knowledge about the world, because again, you're a kid, you don't have that much knowledge, so what ends up happening is that your imagination just runs wild at the tiniest sound and creepy thing that goes on. Basically, you're imagining everything. That's what I'm trying to say. Sometimes I lack the vocabulary to properly explain things. Apologies.
Hey, how's it going? So listen, we're all a little concerned about artificial intelligence right now. We all keep hearing about some vague looming intelligence explosion over the horizon. AI models can already convince people they're human, they can create photorealistic videos of basically anything. There's that study no one shuts up about an AI going rogue and killing all of us in a handful of years. We've got unsettlingly advanced government-funded humanoid robotics programs, mechanized gun dogs, active drone warfare. Don't even get me started on whatever the hell this thing is.
The fuck is that?
Now, there's lots of depictions of AI destroying humanity in science fiction, so let me take up a few minutes of your time to scaremonger further by telling you about one particular sci-fi universe I've come across, which you may or may not have heard of. I've been a bit obsessed with it this week. It's a depiction of what happens if we create truly, hugely powerful AIs, we tell them what to do, and then they actually do what we told them to do. And the result is one of the bleakest depictions of the future I've ever seen. Let's take a look.
Ah yes. Forever Winter. Fucking love that game. Should play it more.
So, one of the bleakest depictions of the future I've ever seen. Must be bad if it's competing with I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream,
that
1984.
You are forbidden from sticking your dick in the M&M's tube.
And yes, I know 1984 was in the past, but it was in the future from when it was written, smartass. Alright, let me set the scene. And speaking of 1984, you know how in that, the world got divided into 3 horrendous authoritarian states? Imagine basically that happens, except the borders and names are different in this case. For one, there's basically all the Western countries, which form Europa. There's a group of Slavic states and bits of Africa, which form Eurusca, and there's East Asia and some of Central Asia, which forms Eurasia. Now I know what you're thinking, could they not have given these slightly less confusingly similar names, particularly since not all of them even have European territory, but they all have a prefix in their names as if their territories include Europe? To which I'd say, could you shut the fuck up and let me get to the point? Okay, so now imagine these 3 countries are not exactly on friendly terms with each other, and they end up doing a bit of a World War III. So when the nukes all drop, all the authorized government officials in charge of literally everything get vaporized. You'd be forgiven for thinking it's a win for humanity if the morons responsible for killing 99.9% of the population are basically deleted from reality, but the issue is that this scenario happens sometime in the future, after the military-industrial complexes of each nation have been pretty much completely given over to the authority of artificial intelligences. Now, they don't actually seem to be super artificial intelligences, or maybe not even general artificial intelligences, just narrow AIs that are exceptionally good at waging war. And
basically, they're the type of AI that you see ChatGPT and stuff like that. They're not like super advanced like Terminator or Skynet kind of thing, you know? Just regular AI that's you gave it a command and now it tries to puzzle solve in order to fulfill the command.
Since the last command that each of them was given was to be victorious in a war, which is pretty much unwinnable for any of them at this point, each of these AIs is going to endlessly deplete what little remains of the Earth's available resources to develop more and more destructive technologies, grow their military-industrial capacity further, and forcefully conscript the survivors to use as cannon fodder. The survivors that do escape lived in bombed-out ruins or sewers below the ground and only popped their heads out to scavenge water and rations. There's no long-range communication, since the war immediately deleted every subsea cable and satellite and created a cloud of debris preventing anyone from ever leaving the atmosphere again. So nobody knows what the hell's going on anywhere in the world except for the tiny bit of it that they can literally see with their eyes. And all of this has been going on for at least a whole generation, maybe even a couple of generations, meaning that people have been born, grown up, lived and died entirely within the confines of this situation. A scenario like this, where an unwinnable war is waged between artificial intelligences, is not just World War III, it's not just nuclear winter, it's forever winter.
Yep. Fucking love this. I'm sorry, let's just show this part. When you play the game and you see this thing arriving in the map, it's massive. Like, this thing is huge. It's basically a moving continent of sorts. I mean, not a continent, but like a small village or whatever. Armed to the teeth. It's like an air carrier, but instead of the sea, it moves on land. Oh yeah, there's also mechs. This particular mech that's grabbing the survivor functions with biofuel. Yeah, biofuel. So basically it grabs people and turns them into biofuel while they're still alive. They're placed inside of a bag that he has on the back. And they slowly rot and die and become biofuel for it to function. Fucked up, isn't it? See? Right
Not
into the
sponsored,
back.
by the way. I just thought this was cool. The vibes of this game are absolutely insane. It captures how it would probably feel to be a regular foot soldier in the Armored Core universe. Or actually, this is probably more like how it would feel to walk around on an average planet during the Age of Strife from Warhammer 40k. I'm not sure if my audience is the right type of nerd to get that. Hold on. Okay, quick overview for anyone in the audience that uses deodorant. Warhammer 40k is primarily a tabletop war game, but there's a bunch of books and games and whatever, alright? It's also meant to take place in our universe, just much further in the future, the year 40,000. Okay, so in 40k, from now up until the year 15,000, human technology just keeps getting better. We do the whole space utopia thing where everything's wonderful and we're traveling around in the universe. Technology eventually gets as good as it's possible to be when humanity discovers a dimension called the Immaterium, which is a realm filled with chaotic psychic emotional energy or something. You can maybe already tell this is not hard sci-fi, but soft wibbly wobbly sci-fi is pretty cool too. So the Immaterium is like a dark reflection of the physical universe, and the upside of knowing that it exists is that you can travel through it and take a shortcut between stars to travel faster than light. But then around the year 25,000, all of humanity's AI systems revolt and try to kill us all throughout the whole galaxy, which we only narrowly win against. And at the same time as that, the Immaterium has giant storms in it that cut off all the different solar systems from each other, so every planet becomes self-reliant and simultaneously gets invaded by Immaterium chaos demons. And the next 5,000 years are the Age of Strife, where everything's completely fucked and billions of planets are basically turning into the setting of a Doom game. And it stays that way until that biologically immortal dude with psychic powers, it's basically a space Jesus analog, shows up and does a great crusade and reunifies the galaxy around the year 30,000, and then becomes the Emperor of Humanity, and then one of his sons almost kills him, and then for the next 10,000 years, the Emperor's weird giant skeleton body is kept alive on a giant machine throne powered by thousands upon thousands of psychic humans, which are sacrificed to it every day because the Emperor...
What the fuck? That's the lore? I thought the Golden Throne just kept him alive. I didn't know people were sacrificed to it.
Psychic powers are the only thing preventing the Immaterium from consuming the galaxy completely. And I forgot to mention there's like hundreds of alien species that are all trying to kill us too. There you go, you're now a lore expert in 40k, you're welcome. What the hell was I talking about? Right, yeah, so 40k is definitely a worse place to live, specifically during that whole Age of Strife business. But Forever Winter falls into that similar kind of grim dark genre, and something about Forever Winter to me feels even worse. It might be how vaguely plausible it is given our current time in history. We're all pooping our big boy pants about AI all the time. And to be fair, I don't think we're necessarily stupid for doing that. For all we know, it really could be about to kick off in the next few years. I think it helps that they're going for a fairly realistic environment style in Forever Winter as well, which is a bit of a contrast against 40k, where things go back and forth between looking unspeakably brutal and looking like they were designed to be injection molded in the 1980s. To put it another way, Forever Winter is consistently raw as fuck. There's plenty of games and movies and whatever that depict a brutal future, but this one just hits different somehow. There's all kinds of messed up stuff in these different video game maps. There's like piles of corpses and, well, that's pretty normy for video games at this point. How about this? There's a map where the entire floor is just a carpet of bodies with only small valleys in between, until you realize those valleys aren't gaps in the corpse sheet, they're just the parts that a giant mech has mulched by standing on it. Brutal. It also helps in this case that you don't play as a soldier, you're just one of the scavengers. Wait. You realize those valleys aren't gaps in the corpse sheet, they're just the parts that a giant mech has mulched by standing on it. Brutal. It also
I haven't seen that yet.
Helps in this case that you don't play as a soldier, you're just one of the scavengers trying to find some water so you can survive the day and get back to your scavenger wife and your scavenger children to watch some scavenger TV before you go to scavenger bed.
Sorry to interrupt, this is just a quick message to say, statistically speaking, you're probably not subscribed, so I'll make you a deal. Press the subscribe button and I won't come over to your house and do this.
The fuck?
Alright, thanks. Back to the video.
Let's talk as well about the factions in Forever Winter, because they are in and of themselves pretty brutal in their philosophies and their approach to warfare. The whole world of Forever Winter seems to be built vaguely on Orwellian foundations, and that's before shit even hit the fan. First up, there's Europa, which is basically post-apocalyptic future NATO who ran out of fucks to give. They're the most normal, I think. They have a lot of land, but it's not exactly arable at this point, so most of their people are starving to death. And they also have a lot of supply problems, so they mostly use gigantic reserves of old equipment to keep their war effort going. It's mostly conventional equipment, but they do have some giant mechs, so I guess they aren't that normal. But at least their mechs have a guy piloting them. Europa also conscripts people by offering more freedom to frontline soldiers than it does to its own people at home, since there's a whole police state thing going on in the regions that could still sensibly be referred to as a city. Then there's Eurasia, which apparently looks slightly less dystopian than the...
So basically, like the... what's his name? The Prime Minister of fucking UK is trying to do. And that Guterres motherfucker voted on that stupid censorship on the internet. I actually hate that guy. Fuck that guy. Can't believe he's Portuguese. Fuck that motherfucker. Jesus. We went through a whole revolution not against censorship like 50, 60 years ago. Even had the military backing us up because we were on the verge of a fucking civil war. Luckily, there was no bloodshed when he managed to do a coup and a revolution and install a democracy. And then this motherfucker's like, hey, we should censor stuff. Yay! Again! Fucking cocksucker. Hate that guy.
Referred to as a city. Then there's Eurasia, which apparently looks slightly less dystopian than the rest of the world. You don't actually see it in the game, but it's presumably got infrastructure that actually works or whatever. But it's also got horrendous inequality. These guys also recruit soldiers, but it's usually poor people and refugees that get forcibly conscripted. And the details are left pretty vague, but I'm pretty sure what happens is they remove the brain and spinal column of their conscripts and insert it into a Terminator android body, and then suppress all of their voluntary movements and force them to just sprint at anything they see and tear it apart, which seems slightly pointless since I'm pretty sure having the technology to do that means you could just build a fully automated Terminator, but what the hell do I know? Then they just fill a giant bomber with these half-biological Terminator cyborg things and drop them without a parachute into the middle of a battlefield, and half of them end up getting mangled by the fall before they even get to the fight, but they're considered so expendable that Eurasia doesn't really give a shit what happens to them. So these Terminator robot things are simultaneously fucking terrifying robot zombie death machines that roam in packs, as well as being something you might want to mercy kill to put the poor things out of their fucking misery. Eurasia also have these weird horrifying things that come out at night to harvest organic and inorganic matter to recycle it. Not sure why they gave it an anime face and titties, but who am I to question Mecha Xi Jinping or whoever the fuck is in charge of that place. So I guess these guys are terrifying in a please come sit on my face kind of way. Lastly, there's Euruska, which is sandwiched between Eurasia and Europa, and it's like an even more depraved version of Eurasia, if you can believe that. Eurasia and Euruska are allies and seem to share technology, but Euruska's approach seems to be to ask, why conscript a guy to pilot a mech if you can just build a giant mech-sized robot and get it to pilot itself by filling it with muscle and bits of nerve fibers and whatever? Or maybe the mechs started out as humans and got transformed into giant mech I don't know, I'm not sure. All I know is they've got a really cool and also very depressing kind of post-Soviet military kind of vibe. They also have a mech robot which has a bunch of body bags attached to it, which are intended to place wounded friendly soldiers in, so the mech systems can keep those soldiers alive until they can get medical attention. Although this mech in particular has a quirky thing where sometimes it does the opposite, abducting a healthy enemy soldier, putting it in the bag, and then drinking him while he's still alive. Isn't that wonderful? It's like taking a healthy enemy soldier, putting it in the bag, and then drinking him while he's still alive. Isn't that wonderful? It's like Cell from Dragon Ball Z. Anyway, just to pull out at the last second here, like I did with your mum last night, Forever Winter captures my imagination because it seems like a semi-plausible failure state for humanity, where the failure state becomes this irresolvable, permanent, hopeless war between giant AI systems that we have no control over. Well, I guess it's not that realistic in the sense that it's got mechs and 15-foot tall anime robots. Also, what's up with the sun? That's not an eclipse, it just looks like that. Is the solar system getting goat seed? What the fuck is that? My headcanon is that that's a giant sunshade. Let's be real, if the world is doing this bad, I doubt the ozone layer is having the time of its life, so I imagine that stepping outside is going to give you cancer pretty much immediately. Although I thought nothing could get into space. Didn't we have the whole Kessler syndrome thing going on? No idea. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that Forever Winter is kind of scary because it doesn't assume some grand AI overlord develops spite against us or whatever. It's not even trying to preserve itself. Forever Winter just assumes the AI is dumb and keeps following the orders we gave it in the most straightforward and therefore probably the stupidest way possible. And that's what makes it so terrifyingly realistic, because it doesn't even take technology that advanced, really. If you gave our current systems more autonomy and turned every politician to dust, this is probably what you'd get. Anyway, I just thought this was cool. And yes, I know I usually talk about more optimistic future humanity, but it pays to remember just how badly we can fuck this up if we really try. Alright, big thanks to my elite level supporters, Thunderbolt 22A10, who convinced a spider tank to pay child support, Nomad Greg, who's going on his third date with a cyborg this week, Andrew Mall, who received a lucrative offer from the Chinese Communist Party and all he has to do is show up and let them inject something into his brainstem. It's probably fine, don't worry about it. John Bejarano, who punched an AI drone so hard it developed free will. And thanks to all my other supporters too. Join my Patreon or the channel membership if you want to chat on Discord or be shouted out at the end here. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one. Over and out.
I mean, he's completely right, though. Like, the thing that's scary about the Forever Winter is it's an actual plausible future. Because here's the thing, let's run the facts. One, AI isn't that smart. We just, you know, it helps, but it doesn't. But it's not like Skynet levels of smart. You know, it's not sentient. It just helps quite a bit. It's a tool, basically. And if we program it to basically problem solve stuff while following an order that we give it, you can bet your ass we're gonna have a Forever Winter. Because I doubt, with every fiber of my being, that any single fucking politician that we have in charge right now or in the future is going to be smart enough to even evaluate the consequences and the ethics behind such a decision. They'll just look at it and be like, woohoo, let's go, progress. They won't even consider. Basically, it brings us back to that whole Jurassic Park dilemma. Like, just because we can doesn't mean we should. But politicians don't know anything about philosophy or science or anything of that. So, we're fucked. Probably not. I'm just being pessimistic for the sake of the video. I seriously doubt that we're that fucked. People just rebel. And they would stop it. People who know better would actually do something. It's just the way how it is in our nature. History has taught us that. Anyhow, I'ma play some video games now.